Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to WWBG 1470 AM and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com on this beautiful, beautiful Friday afternoon here on Frankly Speaking Sports Carolina. And what a great show. What a great, great show we have in store for you today. We're going to be talking some NFL football, of course, and the Carolina Panthers. We'll be talking some ACC basketball. We'll be talking the big game coming up this Monday. That's right, TCU versus Georgia. And how about, folks, I don't know how many of you have realized, but this unbelievable NHL hockey team called the Carolina Hurricanes. Well, we got two great guests for you today. Coming up later, Anthony Jones Jr., running back coach, of course, of TCU, and then the great NHL writer Jim Behringer will be joining us to discuss the success of the Carolina Hurricanes. But, unbelievable, tough, devastating, if you want to call it, loss by the Carolina Panthers last weekend to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But when I look at this I believe the final score was something like 30-24. When I look at this game, I saw a team that gave their heart and soul for a head coach that they want to play for named Steve Wilks. This is a team now that has gone 5-6 that, in the next 2 days will be playing the New Orleans Saints in their last game of the year. And should they win, they would have gone 6-6 with Steve Wilks as a coach. Now, listen to me, folks. Two of those games, the one versus the Buccaneers that they lost this weekend, that they lost in the fourth quarter, unfortunate fumble, didn't help them by Sam Darnold. And then, of course, the tough game that they lost in Atlanta in overtime with a missed field goal, missed extra point, and so on. And that could have been completely different, and we could be playing in the playoffs. But what happened is what happened. You can't bring that back. But what can you say about the changing character, the changing culture of the Carolina Panthers and the job they done from Game 6 to Game 17? Incredible what they have done. And if someone looks at me and tells me that Steve Wilks does not deserve the head coaching job, or David Tepper comes to me and tells me that Steve Wilks does not deserve this coaching job, he is full of crap. No doubt about it. How can anybody look at me and tell me what this guy has done? It's one thing to get some wins. It's one thing to change some losses. But when you're able to change a complete attitude, a complete culture of an NFL team in the amount of time that this guy has done it, it's incredible. And he deserves the job. And it would be a huge disgrace, just a terrible, terrible situation if David Tepper does not go ahead after this Sunday's game and extends this guy's contract for at least the next couple of years. What a job he has done. Every single player on this team wants to play for this head coach and wants this head coach back. Yes, Harbaugh might be out there. Big deal. Hey, you know what? He is a big name. Yes, Sean Payton is there. But there is nobody out there right now that knows the Panther way and knows what Panther football is all about than Steve Wilks. So please don't anyone tell me that this guy does not deserve the job. Another decision that's going to be made once, I guess, the head coach is announced who it will be what do you do at quarterback? I've probably been the biggest fan of Sam Darnold since he started here. And I told everybody last year when McCaffrey went down and Darnold started struggling a little bit before he got hurt, hey, you can't do it all by yourself. Sam Darnold has shown us that he has the ability to be an above-average quarterback in the NFL. Now, if there's people out there that are better than Sam Darnold, I'm not saying don't go after them. But if you have to pick and choose, in the litter and try to decide who a quarterback is, Sam Darnold knows your system. He had a terrific game. Look what he did. 23-37, 341 yards, 3 touchdowns versus a very good Tampa Bay Buccaneer team. Unfortunately, our running game did not show up. The one game our running game did not show up, it cost us. But even with that, out the running game, we had a chance to win because of Sam Darnold. And at the end of the day, we came up a little bit short. But remember, Tampa combined, went ahead and we gave up 400 and something yards to Tom Brady, 200 of them to Mike Evans, who had 3 touchdowns. You're not going to win ball games. But at the end of the day, that is a decision that's going to have to be made. As we move on, we're going to step away from football. Folks, it's incredible. We got a huge, huge football game coming up Monday night. Georgia versus TCU. All I've been hearing all year long has been TCU ain't good enough to win this game. TCU ain't good enough to win that game. Well, it's about time, folks, that you start believing in the TCU Horned Frogs, okay? Because this is one heck of a football team. And, they played a great Michigan team that nobody gave them a chance to win. Meanwhile, their defense made some huge plays, and they capitalized on those huge plays. They scored 51 points versus Michigan. Excuse me, folks. Sorry about that. A little under the weather. Meanwhile, Max Duggan had 225 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did make a couple mistakes, threw 2 interceptions. How about the running game? Everybody talks about Keandre Miller, who had 1,300 yards rushing so far this year. You talk about what Max Duggan can do with his legs. But then Amari DeMarcado comes up and gets 150 yards rushing, 1 touchdown, his career game versus the Michigan Wolverines. Quentin Johnson gets 6 receptions, 163 yards. Meanwhile, TCU held Michigan to 3 of 13 on 3rd down, 0-2 on 4th down. They sacked Michigan 4 times. And meanwhile, on the flip side of the football, TCU was 8 of 16 on 3rd down. So don't tell me this is not a good TCU team because you're full of it. This is a TCU team that continues to overachieve and continues to surprise people. Now, let's look at the other side of the football. You got Georgia, who Stetson Bennett was incredible versus Ohio State. 22 of 34, 398 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception. Georgia rushed for 135 yards, and that incredible defense sacked C.J. Stroud 4 times. But the one area that Georgia struggled versus Ohio State is what Michigan did versus TCU, was on 3rd down where they were only 2 of 10 on 3rd down. Now, folks, everybody's going to say Georgia's going to win. Some will say Georgia's going to win big. I heard this same stuff with Michigan. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you what, don't be surprised. Hey, my heart wants TCU to win. It really does. Because I really, really think TCU is by far, obviously they're the underdog, and it would be a great story for college football. But my heart tells me that they're not going to win, that Georgia will win. But I'm okay with picking Georgia and TCU still winning. But this should be an incredible game. And we are about roughly 7 minutes away on our second segment from having Anthony Jones Jr. TCU running back coach, will be joining us. That's right. Don't leave, folks. TCU running back coach Anthony Jones Jr. will be joining us in about 7 minutes. Meanwhile, let's go to ACC basketball. Holy cow. UNC, it took them a while, but they finally broke through versus Wake Forest as they beat Wake Forest 88-75. I'll tell you what, this was a game where UNC's defense took over in the last 10 minutes of this game. Wake Forest had 5 turnovers in that span. Excuse me, I'm sorry, folks. I do apologize. RJ Davis scored 27 points, 5 of 8 on three-pointers. Amanda Baycott, 21 points, 5 assists, 9 rebounds. How about Leaky Black? 18 points, 3 of 5 on three-pointers. But the difference in this game to me, and this kid should get so much more playing time, is Seth Trimble. 11 points. But yeah, he had 11 points, but he was a major difference. It was like a different team, both offensively and defensively, when he was out there. UNC, they finally started hitting baskets. 51 of 7, 51.7% from the field. They hit 19 of 24 free throws, and they forced Wake Forest into 15 turnovers. The problem with UNC is they got to play 2 halves of basketball. They showed up here in the second half. They outscored. They were down, I believe, 1 in the first at halftime. UNC then had outscored Wake Forest 51-41 in the second half. Meanwhile, the big game, and I've been saying it all season long, I'm saying it, finally someone's going to believe me. I don't want to discredit NC State for this huge win over Duke, but I've been saying all year long that Duke is overrated. Duke is overrated. And guess what? NC State put a whooping on them on Wednesday night. From the get-go, from the set, you could feel NC State in this game was going to win. 84 over number 16 Duke to 60. 84-60 moves Duke to 11-4, 2-2 in the ACC. Meanwhile, NC State improves to 12-4, 2-3 in the ACC. How about Terquavian Smith? He led the way with 24 points. Like I said, they jumped out from the opening tip in this game. Jocko Joyner had 21 points, 9 assists, and 6 rebounds. Meanwhile, NC State had a 22-point lead at half. They made 47% of their shots, made 10 three-pointers. Wolfpack scored 30 points. Listen to this, folks. They scored 30 points off Wake Forest turnovers, but the big man, DJ Burns, was the man of the hour for me. He had 18 points in this game, and NC State wins big over what I call the overrated Duke Blue Devils, 84-60. Good win for NC State. I know my good buddy Ernie Myers is very happy with that win. Meanwhile, we're going to close it out with, folks, I cannot tell you what's going on with the Charlotte Hornets. I cannot, as we close out this first segment. It just baffles me. They're last in the Southeast Division of the Eastern Conference. They're 10-29. We can talk about all the injuries you want to talk about. Hayward's been hurt. Martin's been hurt. Ball's been hurt. Rozier's been hurt. Oubre's now hurt. Everybody on this team has been hurt. But I'm going to tell you what. I'm a huge Gordon Hayward fan, but I'll be the first one to tell you he's not worth having on the team because he's never available to play. He has more bench time than he does play time. So a decision's got to be made, and you got to get somebody more effective that you can use in games that's as sad as it's to say that isn't injured all the time. Meanwhile, this team, what can you say offensively? They're by far the worst offensive team in the NBA. They're 25th in scoring, 29th in field goal percentage, 26th in free throw, and 30th in three-point percentage. What it is they lack in chemistry. Yes, you got LaMelo Ball. I know everybody talks LaMelo Ball. Excuse me once again, folks. I'll probably say that a couple more times during this. So I do apologize. A little bit under the weather. But yes, LaMelo's 23.7 points, 5.9 rebounds, 8.1 assists since he started playing. But they are not winning. Who cares? Meanwhile, Terry Rozier, 20.1 points, 4.3 rebounds, 5.3 assists. They are not winning. They were a better team under Borrego than they are under Clifford right now. And I know people don't want to hear that in Carolina. How could that be? Well, yes, his team has been decimated, has been hurt, has been injured. But at the end of the day, they got to figure something out to get this chemistry right. They quit in that last game. Okay? Yes, I understand if you're up against better talent because half your team is hurt. But when you have players on the court that are quitting on you and not playing basketball to win, there is a problem. And it is called a leadership problem. And something has to be done very quickly. This team isn't going to turn around quitting on their coach, which they did last game. And if you're quitting on your coach, it tells me there is a lack of respect for that coach. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to end our first segment, but coming up, two great interviews. We're going to have the great running back coach of TCU, Anthony Jones Jr., followed by NHL writer Jim Berenger. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back right after this message. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports Carolina here on WWBG 1470 AM and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. What a busy weekend it is for sports. We have huge NFL games coming up. And then, of course, the big one, Monday night TCU versus Georgia. And it is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to have with us on the Frankly Speaking Sports Carolina hotline. Let's welcome in TCU running back coach Anthony Jones Jr. Anthony, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, Frank. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. Anthony, I have to ask you this. I know the answer, but I still got to ask you this question. Coming off a losing 2021 season, you picked 7th, I think, to come in 7th this year in your division in the Big 12. Coach, let me ask you, did you ever in your wildest dreams think you would be playing in Monday's national championship game?
That's a great question. Not this soon. We have a great head coach and that in the person of Coach Sonny Dykes, and he's established an incredible staff with incredible players. And we knew we had the talent. We knew we had to have the ball bounce our way a couple of times this season, but it is a dream come true to be here and to be able to play for a national championship against Georgia.
You mentioned Sonny Dykes, and what a terrific job he has done taking over for Coach Patterson, who was let go last year. What has been the main difference, in your opinion? What have you seen that Sonny Dykes has instilled in this team to get them playing winning football?
Well, you hear the term players coach so much in athletics. And I think that's an understatement for who he is as a man. I think the appropriate phrase would probably be a people's coach. So he's not only great to the players, but he's also great to the staff. So we're not the typical staff to be in the office at midnight. We don't grind our guys out a bunch, a whole lot. He really has the best interests of his coaches, his staff, and his players in mind. When you have a leader like that, it just rubs off in the entire football program. So the work-life balance here is great. The work environment is great. I think people are excited to come to work every day here at TCU, and that's a true testament to Coach Dykes and his vision and just who he is as a person.
Coach, let me ask you this. You hear good things, you hear negative things, you hear okay things when it comes to the transfer portal. But I guess you'd be the first one to say that the coaches on the TCU staff, I would say, are big fan of the transfer portal, aren't they?
Well, we are a big fan of getting the right guys into our program. And that can come by way of the transfer portal, that can come by way of the junior college route, that can come by way of just high school recruiting. So we want to take full advantage of any opportunity that we're given. But most importantly, we are a huge fan of making sure that we get the young men that are the right fit for our football program. And as fate has it, we were able to benefit from some transfers, some guys that graduated, some guys that decided to come here to TCU from other programs. They've been the absolute right fit, which is a byproduct of the success that we're having on the field this season.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Coach. And, talk about, you get to see him firsthand, Max Duggan, and what is so special about this kid, and what is it about this kid that just keeps winning and winning and winning?
I think he's probably arguably one of the greatest young men. I'm not talking about just football player. We know how great of a football player he is, but he's probably one of the greatest young men in all of college athletics. You talk about a young man who had some health challenges early on in his career here at TCU. When the season first started, I think it's well documented that he did not start the season opening game. And when we live in a day now where you just asked about the transfer portal, when a young man has started so many years at one program and has to come off the bench and be a backup for his football program, that's a tough pill to swallow. But Max Duggan did just that. He never wavered. He never complained. He is what college football should be about. He is what this great country should be about. I personally think that he's one of the greatest human beings that's ever walked the face of the earth because of who he is as a person. And because of that, he's a heck of a quarterback for us. He's a heck of a leader. And he's our field general. He's the reason why we're on this run. He's a huge piece of it. And you couldn't ask for a better young man to represent TCU and all of college football.
And, it's, switching a little bit on the gears and what you handle, the running backs. I remember listening to people, and I said this on my show last week before you played Michigan, and everybody was talking about, well, obviously Blake Corum was hurt, but the great running game of Michigan with Edwards there and Corum, and I kept saying, how about the running game of TCU? What, Keandre Miller, what do you have? Over 1,300 yards. And then talk about the emergence last week of Amari DeMarcado with 150 yards rushing in that game. I mean, talk about this running game. This is just not a weak running game. This is a strong TCU running game besides Duggan, who can run as well.
Yeah, Max obviously is the field general. He can run definitely for sure. But you just mentioned some guys in that running back room, as being Kendre Miller and Amari DeMarcado. They're both phenomenal young men. Both guys have had a great career thus far here at TCU, and they're just great people off the field as well. Never have to worry about them in any type of trouble off the field. Never have to be concerned about their academics. They're always where they're supposed to be, not only there, but they're there on time. I think that's a huge part of being productive on the football field and being trustworthy. Both of those young men have had really good seasons this past season. But a lot of our success in the running back room can come obviously from the offensive line. I think Coach A.J. Ricker, our offensive line coach, has done a tremendous job with those guys. And all the big men up front that paved the way for us, this conversation would not be possible without those guys, And I think so many oftentimes that we don't show love or respect or due diligence to the offensive line. Those guys do all the dirty work. They getting hit every single play. They have to run every single play. It's a tough job to be offensive lineman, especially in the league that we play in and playing some of the great teams that we play. So those guys obviously get a lot of the credit, and it is well deserved. But obviously, we'll be really ashamed if we didn't share a lot of that honor and glory with the offensive line.
We were talking to Anthony Jones, Jr., TCU running back coach. Coach, last week versus Michigan, 263 yards rushing, 8 of 16 on third down conversions. You collected 3 turnovers. That's a pretty darn good formula for winning, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And obviously Michigan is a great football program. Coach Harbaugh does a great job of getting his guys ready to play week in and week out. Great staff, great players. But we also have a great staff and great players also, and we just wanted to make sure that we were doing the things that we were capable of doing. And we wanted to stay within our game plan and just play one play at a time. It wasn't anything magical about the success that we've had. I think our guys believed in themselves, and we try to block out all the distractions and all the outside noise and just focus on TCU. And we feel pretty confident that if we can control what TCU can control, then we actually put ourselves in a situation to play a solid football game. Now, we didn't play perfect by no means. There's a lot of things that we have to go back and correct this week heading to the national championship game. But overall, we felt pretty good about the game plan, and the guys went out and they executed at a high level.
Coach, let me ask you this. I want to talk about the game upcoming now. What is the mood of the team? Obviously, nothing new for TCU to be considered underdogs. They've been pretty much all year an underdog, and they've still been prevailing. But what's the mood of the team going into this game versus the former national champion Georgia Bulldogs this Monday night?
Well, first of all, we were just really honored and excited to be playing in this football game, and not a lot of people could even think about us being ranked, but we was ranked preseason and all of that good stuff, of being in this position that we're in now. But we're forever grateful. I think our guys have worked extremely hard. Our coaches have worked hard, and our support staff and everybody involved with this program. So I think the word excited comes to mind. Humble should come to mind. Blessed and fortunate comes to mind. I think for the most part, it's just, we know it's not just another game, obviously, but it is the next game. And it's the next game that's on our schedule. It's just so happy to be on a big stage against a really good opponent in that of Georgia, So we're taking this day-by-day approach, not looking too far ahead into Monday. We have to focus on today. And once today is over, we have to focus on tomorrow, put our best foot forward one day at a time.
Now, talk about some of the key elements that you're able to talk about that has to be accomplished in this game versus Georgia. I mean, obviously, your running game's got to be a key. It's been all year long, but talk about some of the other key elements that has to happen in order for you to prevail Monday night.
Yeah, absolutely. We number one, we have to take care of TCU. I think that if we do that, we will only be concerned about TCU. We understand who Georgia is. We understand what Georgia does on both sides of the football, as well as in the kicking game. We have to be concerned with what TCU does. At TCU, we can take care of the football on offense. We can play clean assignments in all 3 phases of the game. And I think we'll be fine, and obviously we have to play almost a perfect football game. The thing that Coach Dykes told us as a staff and us as players is that we don't have to do anything different this game that we've done all year. And then just prepare the right way, focus on the small details of it, and just play a clean football game. And let's get this game to a point of the game where we can manage it, and then hopefully we can pull it out late.
Yeah, Coach, what, if anything, I don't know if scared is the right word, maybe worries. What worries you most about this Georgia Bulldog team?
Well, really, they're talented, extremely talented all across the field. You look at the defensive line, from the linebackers to the secondary on defense. Obviously, Georgia has always had some good running backs. Coach Dale McGee does a great job with those guys. And, just with the overall program, I mean, it's the reason why they're the number 1 team in the country, obviously. But I wouldn't say worry is the right word. We are very respectful of who Georgia is and all that they have done over these last couple of years. And we respect them wholeheartedly. We just have to go out there and play close to perfect game as we possibly can.
Coach, talk about a couple more questions. We'll let you run here. Talk about, TCU, which, like you said, losing record last year, not really picked to do anything this year. For those fans listening in Greensboro, North Carolina, talk about what this does for the TCU football program going forward.
Yeah, it definitely gives us confidence, confidence of who we are as a football program, the things that Coach Dykes has set forth in this program of doing things right, both on and off the field. And you can see the benefits of it. I think it goes beyond the football. It starts in the classroom, it starts in the community, and which translates to the football team. And I think now we have the momentum moving forward that we can go in the house and the living room of any young man in the country, and we can present who we are as TCU, and not just TCU, the football program that had a miraculous 2022 season. But we can sell our academics, we can sell the city of Fort Worth, we can sell our graduation rate, we can sell all of the intangible things that TCU has to offer. And I think this is a great spring forward towards the come here.
Coach, last question. It's a two-part question. What are you most, what's the best thing or the most interesting thing that you're looking forward to, first for the team coming up Monday, and then personally for you, what's the most exciting thing about Monday's game?
Well, for the team, it's just an opportunity to play in the national championship. I mean, so many people, whether you're a player, whether you're a coach, live for this moment. And here we are, we have an opportunity to do just that on January the 9th. For me as a coach, it's really special because just a mere 5 years ago, I was walking the sidelines of a high school football stadium. And I was a high school head football coach back in my hometown of Memphis. And never in my wildest dreams did I believe or think that I would be at the national championship this soon. You always have a dream of advancing your career and going to the next level. But God has truly been good to me and my family, and I'm very appreciative and thankful for him for that. And I'm just a high school coach living out his dream. So I'm pretty sure once we take the field on Monday, I will look around there at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles and realize, number one, that this is a little different than the high school stadium back in Memphis. And number two, just how thankful and blessed I am just to be in this position.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, you've been a big part of that team, obviously helping the running game definitely come up to tuition and definitely have a successful year. We're looking, one more game left, Coach. That's all you need, buddy. And your national championships, we're pulling for you, rooting for you, and we want to thank you very much taking time out of what I know is a busy, busy week for you to come on Frankly Speaking Sports Carolina.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate you guys and everybody in Carolina.
All righty. Happy New Year, Coach.
Happy New Year to you.
All righty. That was Coach Anthony Jones Jr. with us here on Frankly Speaking Sports Carolina. Boy, oh boy. What a great interview. Can they do it one more time? We'll find out Monday night. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports Carolina. And what a show we've had. And you talk about everything going on with the college football championship coming up this Monday night with TCU versus Georgia. We talked about the great job Steve Wilks has done, and will he be retained as head coach of the Panthers? It's so easy for us during this time of year to lose focus on how successful the Carolina Hurricanes have been this year so far. Just amazing. 25-7. They just ended an 11-game winning streak, a 17th consecutive game point streak, and they are in first. That's right. They are in first place in their division, the Metropolitan Division, and it is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to now introduce to you on our WWBG 1470 AM and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com hotline. Let's welcome in NHL writer Jim Beringer. Jim, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing good, Larry. Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure here talking about hockey, one of my favorite sports in the world. Those other sports are great, but yeah, you can't lose track of what the Carolina Hurricanes are doing right now. One of the best teams in the National Hockey League.
And you look at this team, Jim, and we'll talk about some of the offense, but this team has been amazing on the defensive side of the hockey puck. I mean, they're allowing only 99 goals in 38 games, which is fourth best in the NHL, and they have an amazing penalty kill of 80.5%. Talk about this defense of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Well, I think that's their strength of their team. I mean, ever since Rod Brind'Amour took over as head coach of this team's played with an identity. That identity's been of Rod Brind'Amour when he was a player. A lot of people remember Brind'Amour with the Flyers when he was with the Hurricanes. He was just a grinder. They're not going to make mistakes. They don't beat themselves, and that's what good defensive teams do. You look at the back end, the addition of Brent Burns. I mean, this guy's having a career resurgence, you want to say. Maybe a career year, the statistics he had in San Jose. But, they pick him up pretty much for nothing. And, they just find ways to replace guys. Dougie Hamilton goes, okay, Anthony DeAngelo, come on in. He goes, we'll bring in Brent Burns. Oh, yeah, Brett Pesci's there. Oh, Brady Shea's there. They got so many guys on the back end, and they just play so good defensively. And I've seen them play a lot this year, especially to play the Devils. They played them so many times. They just don't make mistakes. They capitalize on turnover. They just sit back. And when you have good defensive hockey and a good coach like that, and when your goalies are playing the way they're playing, no one's going to stop them. That's what I just love about this Hurricanes team.
And you talk about the goaltending, and every great defense is backed by a great goaltender. And, it was supposed to be Frederik Andersen. He's hurt. I think he's been out since November 6th. Then you have Antti Raanta, who has gone in, was 10-2, 2.6 goal against goal average. But the guy that's been really impressing me, Jim, has been this Pyotr, I think he pronounces his name, Kochetkov, who is 7-0-1 in the month of December, was named goalie of the month. He's 10-2 right now in his career. Talk about this great goaltending that they found behind Andersen.
Yeah, I mean, look, these guys know how to turn out goaltenders. I mean, from Cam Ward during his run to Stanley Cup, they had Arthur Zerbe, and now, Peter Kochetkov. I mean, what can you say about what this kid's doing? I mean, he wasn't even supposed to be on this roster this year, and, Andersen goes down. Last year was supposed to be Frederik Andersen's year. He came in there, but again, he gets hurt. Kochetkov has to come in well. But this year, it's his team, and they found their goalie of the future, and they have a decision to make. What are they going to do with Antti Raanta or Frederik Andersen? Because they've already given Kochetkov a 3-year extension. They've already given him a contract extension, so they know they're going forward with him. Now you have to make a decision who you're trading, because you're probably going to trade the guy that's been injured. I mean, both guys have been injured, and they revamped their entire goaltending. They moved out Nedeljkovic to Detroit, and they revamped everything, moved out Reimer to San Jose, and now they have these 3 guys. And when you have 3 guys, you got to figure out a way to get rid of one. Again, you feel bad for the guy like Andersen, but this is Kochetkov's team to go. And the way this team's playing, anybody can go in. I mean, the other night, saw Raanta in against New Jersey. Was he great? No, but he made the saves when he needs to make them, and they can give Kochetkov a night off. So I think you're going to probably look at a guy like Andersen that gets moved out. Again, no indication of when or if or how they're going to do it, but they're going to have to make a decision because, guys are coming back to the lineup, and one guy that's returned is Max Pacioretty.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's a great problem to have if you think about it. because you could get something, hopefully somewhat decent back for Anderson. But on the offensive side of this team, what can you say about Martin Necas? 17 goals, 20 assists. What do you got? Andrei Svechnikov, leading the team with 20 goals and 14 assists this season. And my favorite, Sebastian Aho, who has 12 goals and 18 assists. I mean, they are, people don't notice them as an offensive team because they're very strong defensively, and their statistics don't necessarily show a strong offensive team, but they got some offensive weapons.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they have some of the best playmakers in the team. I mean, Svechnikov, everybody knows what he's done with those Michigan lacrosse goals. I mean, he's a highlight reel. Marty Necas is coming into his own this year, leading the team in points. Obviously, Svechnikov leads the team in goals. And then you have, Aho right there as well. And those are the guys that are mainstays. Teravainen is down there as well. Jesperi Kotkaniemi really impressed me, even though, the contract may not be what Hurricanes fans would like, but he's starting to find his own rhythm. And they're finally getting the depth scoring they needed, because early on in the season, they were just relying on those three guys. And you can't win hockey games all the time by relying on three guys. So now you see Stastny stepping up. You got, Jordan Staal, mainstay that's been there for a while, starting to step up and score goals. I've been really impressed with Stefan Noesen. I mean, he led the AHL last year in scoring for Hurricane, and now he's come in, has 8 goals, 12 assists. So you got to get role players to score goals, and that was one of the biggest problems for the Hurricanes last year, especially when they played the Rangers in the playoffs. They just couldn't get those goals, those timely goals that they needed to extend leads or get the lead. They just played too defensively, and that's a good thing. But when you're playing against better quality teams that have the goaltending, you have to sometimes bring the offense, and they have the weapons to do it now, with Necas, with Aho, with all those guys, and you need to step up. Jordan Martinook's there as well. And Seth Jarvis, he's been great. And Jesper Foss. So they have the talent to do it. It's just getting those timely goals is what's necessary.
We just saw, and we're talking to Jim Berenger, NHL writer. Jim, we just saw the 11-game winning streak that was put together before the Hurricanes lost to the Rangers. They also had a 17 consecutive point streak. But when you look at this Metropolitan Division, it's unbelievable to see how well the teams behind them are playing. You have the Devils, which are in second. I believe it's 5 points behind them. You got the Rangers, the Capitol, and the Islanders all have 20 wins, more than 20 wins this year. This is not an easy division, is it?
No, I mean, this is what everybody expected. When we talk about the Metro Division, is probably the best and hardest division in hockey. I mean, everybody expected Carolina to be at the top, the Rangers there as well, but I don't think anybody expected New Jersey, and they're making things interesting the way they've been playing. Their 13-game winning streak, they've come back to earth, recently, but that was to be expected. Carolina started to find their game. The Rangers have found their game. The Islanders are still hanging on. Washington's made a charge. Pittsburgh, up and down, you got, who's going to be left out of the playoffs? You only can have 5 teams from one division make the playoffs, or you go 4-4. But I mean, the way the Metro's playing out, you better guarantee yourself a playoff spot, because if you're trying to for a wild card, I don't know, it's going to be tough wrestling a bunch of teams from the Atlantic and your own division. And the Hurricanes are in a good spot right now, with their winning streak. Pittsburgh's come back a little bit, but this division's always been tight, when they've put it together. And like I said, since Brindamore's took over, this Carolina Hurricanes team's been a favorite to win a Stanley Cup every year. And,
I want to hit on the Devils a little bit, because you're right. They are a surprise. But that's what happens when you go on a 13-game winning streak. But this is a team that I know close to your heart. It's second in goals against in the NHL. They have listen to this, 82% penalty kill, and is 10th in the NHL in goals scored. Once again, they're only 5 points behind the current Hurricanes. I mean, this team is poised to be a real threat if they continue. I love center Jack Hughes, who has 44 points, 22 goals, 22 assists, and this goal, the goalie Vanasek, 14-5, 2.31 goals against average.
Yeah, I mean, New Jersey's just playing well this year. I think everything's starting to click for them. they finally got their goaltending settled. I mean, you still have injuries that you have to deal with. But defensively, I think the additions of Ryan Graves, John Marino, especially Marino, he's really settled things down back there. Siegenthaler. But up front, guys are starting to click. Jack Hughes is taking another step. I mean, the all-star that he is, he takes the next step each year. It takes some time for guys to develop in this league, and Hughes was one of them. Nico Hischier was another guy. But they brought in right pieces, and they have the mentality. Guys that have been there before, tired of losing. They don't want to lose anymore. They want to win, and they're digging deep to find ways to win hockey games. And the games they won during that 13-game winning streak and, up and down recently, they found ways to win hockey games. That's what you need to do, is be a good team and a team to make the playoffs. And when you get quality goaltending, again, in today's day and age of NHL, your goaltending just has to be average or just above it. It doesn't have to be, Andre Vasilevsky or Igor Shesterkin to win. And we've seen it. Colorado proved it. Binnington went on that run. So if you get average goaltending and you have quality defense, you're going to play well. And that's the difference this year with New Jersey, is their defense has improved so much, especially in the penalty kill, that they're not giving up the high danger areas goals that they did last year. Yeah, turnovers are going to happen. Sometimes games don't work out the way it's an 82-game regular season. But this team is focused and determined. And when they lose games the way they've done that, like Carolina, these one-goal games and shootouts, they're not happy about it. And you can see it in the locker room. They're tired of the losing, and they want to maintain their position because they know these losing streaks with the teams behind them and the teams in front of them, they can't continue. They have to find a way to find points. And, they've been a very good team in back-to-back games.
Yeah, we're talking to Jim Biringer, NHL writer. Jim, the one thing I've noticed both about the Devils and also the Hurricanes, which are real close in penalty kill, is the one thing they're doing well, and I'll let you elaborate on it a little bit, on the penalty kill, is they're not giving their opponents second chance opportunities. If the puck comes off the goalie, there are guys in front throwing that puck down the ice.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big difference this year for New Jersey, especially on the penalty kill. Last year, second, third chance, fourth chance opportunity most likely winds up in the back of the net. Now the puck's off the glass, and it's out, and it's deep, and they're killing time. Heck, if Igor Sharangovich from New Jersey's out there, he'd probably put the puck in the back of the net. Same with Carolina. They've got very good aggressive penalty kill. They keep things to the outside. The shots that come in, maybe some not great chances, and then the puck's out of the zone and ring around and out. And that's what you have to do. I mean, you don't want to be overly aggressive, but you want to be aggressive enough where you don't allow the team to set up what they want to do in your zone. And when you can do that and you can control the game, and of course your goaltender is always your best penalty killer. So now with Kochetkov in Carolina and Vanacek there, they have confidence, and the defense has confidence in front of them that their goalie's going to make a big save. In years past, especially with New Jersey, they give up the goal. Everybody's starting to go down. Now the energy and everything stays up. The confidence is there that they can get it going again.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Let me ask you, you watched the Hurricanes some this year, and we're coming to you from Raleigh right now, as you know. Do the Hurricanes, in your opinion, and this is your opinion, Jim, have a team that is capable of winning the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, I do. I do believe that. I think the way they play defensively, the way they grind games out, the way they don't make mistakes in their own zone, the way they just capitalize on turnovers, they're a team that can win a Stanley Cup this year. Absolutely. There's no reason why they can't. They have the talent. They have the goaltending. They have the coaching. It's all there. It's just got to click at the right time. And this Hurricanes team, there's a reason why they're always one of the betting line favorites recently to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, Jim, I'm sorry, buddy. We're running out of time, but I want to thank you so very, very much taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on Frankly Speaking Sports Carolina.
Hey, Larry, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk hockey. You can have me anytime. I'm here to talk hockey for you. Thanks, and have a good night.
You too, my friend. Thanks so much. Okay, that was Jim Behringer, NHL writer. Oh, baby, what a show we had. Big weekend in sports coming up. Not just ACC basketball, playoff NFL spots are on the line. And then let's not forget, folks, Monday night, the big game, the college football championship. On behalf of all of us here at Frankly Speaking Sports Carolina, thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back next week, same time, same channel. Good night.